Rik Emmett talks about his grand gesture to his then bandmates, Mike Levine and Gilmore of Triumph. A grand gesture that was meant to avoid the pitfalls that happened to the Beatles on Rock History Music. You didn't have to do I know the other two guys in the band were, and I've talked to, Gil and Mike twice, Gil once. Not as many times as Rik Emmett, but come on. But the songwriting thing,
John.
What's that?
I said that's as it could be, John.
Yeah. When splitting the songwriting, I mean, and I know they did these other things, obviously, and there were big things what they did. Did you ever have second thoughts of doing that? I mean, because you were singing the hits.
No, at the time, what I was trying to do was protect and service the Musketeers ethos. This was what we were all about. And so in my way, I was saying, hey guys, look at this grand gesture that I'm making here, so, don't screw me. Okay. You are in a position where things come across your desk and, there's deals that are going down and there's lots of money that is on your table sometimes. Don't do me any dirties, because I'm going to be a musketeer with you guys, and I don't want to fight the way the Beatles ended up fighting, and George Harrison feeling like he was, getting short shrift.
Here Comes the Sun is the biggest Beatles song on Spotify.
Yeah, no, I know that. Yeah. And so, and the Police had ended badly because, guys in the band were making noises and Sting didn't want to share. And, and maybe he didn't have to make me in his mind and the way that thing worked. Maybe he is perfectly justified. It's not for me to say. All I know is that when I was in Triumph, I go, well, a smarter thing to do would be to split the songwriting. I thought what it was going to do was make it so that we wouldn't be fighting about who's going to be the lead singer, whose song is going to be the lead single. I thought I was helping that kind of chemistry, and in the end, it didn't. That was a regret. I went, too bad. But I never regretted the fact that I was splitting the songwriting for the tunes. They never got Laying on the Line and Hold On and Suitcase. The stuff from Just a Game remained mine, right. And it always has.
I found it kind of interesting in Triumph, you guys would be naming obscure hockey cards of original six players just to entertain yourselves in the early days. The stuff that people do, huh?
I know. Well, and in those days, Triumph never, we were no good with tour buses. So we always flew. And in fact, Mike and his wife were kind of like travel agents in any case. And so he would be able to find us flights and book them, and we would fly everywhere, the three of us. And then you'd get to someplace and you'd rent a car. And then you might need the rental car to drive from one place to another, do a drop off in, Lord knows where in Minnesota, because you couldn't get flights. So we'd have these long car rides. And what do you do to kill the time? And that was one of the kind of natural ones. You'd get there and you'd be playing these games, and it would be like, oh yeah, Eddie Litzenberger. And you go, oh yeah, Eddie Litzenberger. Oh yeah. How about Vic Stasiak? Oh yeah, Vic Stasiak. Because it was the original six, right? Yeah. And everybody kind of knew the guys in the original six. You couldn't possibly play that game now because, man, the rosters turn over and there's, I don't know, what are there, 173 teams now? There's just, So anyways, but it was fun. And those were the things that made being in a band a lovely, in a way, we ended up at loggerheads and it wasn't good and it broke up. But when you get back together, the thing that's sweet about that is you have those things that you share that were the foxhole things, the things that were when you were in the trenches together, and when you were musketeers and you go, oh yeah, those were good. That was awesome. That was great. It was stupid. It was juvenile, but it was so much fun, Now, okay, so finally, my wife worked at Capitol in the 70s and maybe into the early 80s before she, quit and started having kids. And she was the office coordinator for Dean Cameron in A&R. He eventually became the president of the company. But anyways, one day Brian May came by because Capitol was EMI was putting out there. I think this was the greatest hits record at the time. So I have this album flat signed by Brian May, and it just says to Rik, best wishes. And I think it says, take care, Triumph. I go, okay, but it's signed by Brian May. So I have Brian May's autograph. So I want to have the autograph of an astrophysicist up in my studio.
That's right. Whenever they talk about the rock stars with hidden talents, he's always right up there, man.
Yeah, of course. But he's also, that one of my favorite bands, one of my favorite guitar players in terms of phrasing and sound and identity. And he's just as good as it gets, So anyhow, that's it. That was my little pile of things.
Yay. Well, thank you, Bruce Cockburn. Bruce is, I know you said he's an intense guy. I had a chance to interview him and it fell through for whatever reason. But before the interview, and nothing against him, he's brilliant, great guitarist, like you mentioned. I love his Christmas album. It's crazy good. I'm not a big Christmas albums guy, but it's good. And I really noticed his guitar, it's weird, on his Christmas album. And I went, oh, yeah, he's a great guitarist. What was it like working with him?
No, working with Bruce, I talk about it in the book. We did it sort of with his band. So he had a level of comfort when we were on the TV studio floor, which I didn't. I was nervous and I could tell, like at one point he asked me if I would please turn my amp down, because I was too loud. And I was a rock guy, I really was. And I can't remember the year that I did that, 85 maybe, 80, somewhere around there, 85, 86. But, I mean, he'd always sort of been a hero figure to me, a singer-songwriter in the Canadian scene where, in the early days there was Gordie Lightfoot, and then the next sort of generation of guys was Bruce Cockburn. He was the guy, the finger style picking.
Oh, yeah, an early one.
Good.
Yeah. And he did that Going Down the Road movie. I remember.
Na, 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 na. I'm going to the country, the lights shine on me. And I would go to see him in concert because I wanted to hear that song. That was just such a great, great tune. But it was great, great guitar playing that you could sing and play like that. Like he had that sort of, it's Booker White or Clarence White, or it's one of those guys, the folk guys that I didn't really know, he knew, and he'd schooled himself on that. But he was also a Berkeley guy, right? He'd gone to Berkeley and studied some music. And so the guy had chops, and he had a really clear, concise kind of mind, and I loved his lyric writing. Part of my lyric writing influence was certainly Bruce Cockburn, so to play with him was a little intimidating, but it was also a great thrill of my life that, like we did one of his things, Deer Dancing Around a Broken Mirror, and he played and I played my resonator guitar with slide, and he played his fingerstyle, and it was a really nice marriage of things. And then later he hired Colin Linden to be in his band, and Colin would be playing resonator things with a little bit of blues slide and stuff. And I went, and I think he got the idea of that from when I did the TV show with him. Man, who knows?
Dancing in the Dragon's Jaws with the Wondering Where the Lines Are. To me, that album, there was not a weak track on that album. I've got all his earlier albums.
Look, I got to jam on a live TV show. Mama just wants to barrel house all night long. Yeah. And I went, oh, man, this is as good gets, like fantastic.
Rik Emmett's autobiography, Lay It on the Line, is available now. There are links at the very top of the description where you can pick it up. Also, if you want to make a donation to the channel, there's a PayPal link, and you can join our Patreon and get early access to all our videos. Remember, like our videos, comment on them because we read all the comments. Subscribe to our channel, that always helps. Like the videos and share them on social media. This is John Bowden. More from Rik Emmett in the next 2-3 days on Rock History Music. Take care.